For the rest of this presentation, we're going to shift gears away from pricing and talk about estimating market potential, estimating the total amount of sales by doing a sales forecast. All right, so a sales forecast is just a prediction of how much of a product or service can be sold within a market in a defined period of time. It's good to do multiple sales forecasts, just like you have the opportunity and should be doing with your simulation, where you do those different production runs with your factory and do a most likely, what you really think will happen, but then do an optimistic, if everything breaks the right way, what's going to happen, but also pay special, maybe the most attention to the pessimistic forecast. If things really don't go the way we had hoped, the way we predicted, what's it look like for our bottom line in terms of total sales? All right. If it's a new venture before you start, it's a really good time to do this. It allows you to assess the new venture's feasibility. Is there a sizable market there? Can you expect substantial revenues? All right. And it really assists in planning for several different things. Setting inventory, personnel decisions, etc. So I'm going to give you guys one method of doing forecasting, and it's called the chain ratio method. Or the breakdown process. Basically, the idea is to break down your market into different categories of those who will and won't buy, and to use those estimates to multiply the total number of possible buyers. All right. So forecasting is about getting this big Q, and Q is going to be equal to N, the total number of possible buyers, times little q. Don't get mad at me. I'm not the one that chose 2 Q's to be in this formula. Some marketing person did this. Little q is how many will each customer buy. So it may be 1, it may be 2, it may be 3, it may be 1.1. Maybe we can say most customers aren't going to buy 2, but a few will buy multiple. All right. And then P, the price we are going to sell the item for. And right there is a link to a YouTube video where a marketing professor goes over this chain ratio method. So let me show an example of the chain ratio method for you guys. So let's say that we're going to sell hamburgers on campus, and we're going to set up a hamburger stand at the College of Business on Monday, August 31st. All right, let's try to forget that there's social distancing and people might not want to stand in line for that, although you could include that in your calculations. All right, so how much can we anticipate in sales? And we're going to use our formula, big Q, our total sales, is equal to N, the number of people that we're going to sell to, times Q, the average number of quantity per sale, and P is the price. And we know that our price, we get to set our price. Our price is $5, and our research shows us that the average customer, at least we guess, is going to eat 1.2 hamburgers. All right. Now we start off with a big N, and we want to reduce that and make it a small n. We want to get the actual number, but the overall population, just for argument's sake, let's say there's 20,000 MTSU students. It's actually a little bit more than that, but I didn't go in and find the exact number. All right, and now we're going to multiply it by these percentages, okay? So 50% of students are going to be back on campus this fall. So 20,000 times 50%, it'll be like 10,000. And then 95% are going to eat meat. All right, so what we're doing is we're coming up with reasons for including / eliminating certain people that will or won't be buying, right? So we're not going to sell to this whole 20,000. We're going to sell just to the half that will be back on campus this fall. And we're going to only sell to the 95% that eat meat. And we're actually only going to sell to the 80% that show up, because having taught for a while, that's about the percentage that usually show up in my class. There'll usually be some empty seats, right? So 80% are going to show up. 70% are on campus on a Monday. A lot of people just come on Tuesday, Thursday. So we did some research, and only 70% come to campus on a Monday. If you were sitting in my classroom, I would actually come up with these numbers, some of these numbers, by polling the audience, right? I could look at a cross section of students in a small business management class and say, okay, maybe this is representative of the population. Maybe it's not, I'm not sure. And I could say, okay, how many of you guys don't eat meat? And maybe in a class of 20, 1 or 2 would say we don't eat meat. And so I'd say 95% eat meat. and I would say, how many of you guys actually come every day of the week or come on Monday if it's in a Tuesday, Thursday class? And, I might have to do some extrapolation because it would depend on which day of the week's class I'm talking to. But I could come up with a number, an estimate there. And so 70% I could say are on campus on a Monday. And I could look and say, okay, I've got a class that's supposed to have 25, 20 of them are here, so there's an 80% attendance rate, and I could say that's what I think is typical. So I'm doing some market research. 50% have seen the signs advertising. That's kind of a guess, but you've got to make some educated guesses in this. So, we care about, they either see the sign of the advertising or they actually see the booth, right? You've got to do one of the two, or somebody has to tell you about it. So I could probably expand that and say, how many have actually seen the promotion or heard about the event. All right, 60% have 15 minutes to stand in line. So you can't get the hamburger automatically. We're open from 11 to 1. How many are going to have that 15 minutes to stand in line during that time period? All right. So we do that math, and actually you may come up with lots of other things to add to that, but you want them to all to be realistic, right? So we do the math and we say 20,000 times 0.5 or 50% times 0.95 times 0.8 times 0.7 times 0.5 times 0.6. And if you do that, it comes out to 1,596 customers. And then multiply that by the 1.2 burgers per customer and the $5, and you get the grand total for the total amount of sales. Now, a couple of caveats here. Caveats isn't really the right word. A couple of warnings so that you don't make a mistake. All right. Always multiply by the portion that will be doing something. So the overall purpose of this is designed to eliminate customers who won't be doing something. But we want to keep the number of customers that are doing something in the equation, right? All right, so it's like we've got a big circle of 20,000 people, and we're always trying to make the circle smaller, but when we're looking at a fraction, and fractions, when you try to find a fraction of something, you multiply by that fraction. So we're trying to find the fraction of the circle that we can ultimately count on to buy our product, and to do that, we need to, remember to do those that will. And also to always multiply. There's no addition involved here. I've seen students that will multiply 20,000 times 0.5 plus 20,000 times 0.95 plus 20,000 times 0.8. I've actually had some students give me a number bigger than 20,000 after they do all of this. That would be the incorrect way to do it. So this is the chain ratio method. It is kind of a fast and dirty way of coming up with a sales forecast. Ideally, you would want to combine this with some really good market research, right? You would poll potential customers. You would do some survey and try to really come up with good estimates so that for each of these stats, you're being as accurate as possible and you're coming up with the number of customers that you actually can count on to be there.